Vanessa and Fermin for inviting me again. I love this event. And we have a very interesting panel here today about collaboration and how banks and financial institutions really are doing to collaborate with startups. We have two experts on the theme today. So Vanesa from Visa and Mache from Colpatria. They are really helping their companies to go to the digital transformation using startups. And we have two very interesting examples here on how these big companies can surpass the main challenges that they have. And talking about these challenges, and there are a lot of challenges on this relationship, but I would say that there are three main areas of these challenges. The first related to governance, which is there are a lot of possible initiatives that these companies can do on this relationship, like acceleration programs, hackathons, minority investments, and how do you approve a business case for that? How do you really justify an investment on that? So this is one very interesting challenge. The second is around technology, which is to deal with startups. There are mainly digital companies. The large companies, the big banks, the financial institutions must be prepared for that. So they are also going to a very difficult challenge of their own digital transformation, and they must be prepared for that. And the third one is around culture, because dealing with startups is not easy like dealing with large partners like the big technology companies. There are a lot of challenges concerning the mindset and how do you prepare the company for dealing and relating with startups. So I would start asking each of you to make a very brief presentation on your background and what you've been doing on your companies.
Okay, thank you. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank Vista for the invitation. My name is Vanesa Meyer, and I'm the head of innovation for Visa in Latin America. I've been working in the payments, financial services, and technology industry for the last 20 years, and joined Visa about 9 months ago. And when you look at what's happening in the payments industry, right? You see a lot of digital transformation, and the industry is going through a profound transformation where there are new players, new fintech startups, like many of you here, right? Bringing in new ideas, new technologies, and there's also a movement into open platforms. We call it API economy, right? And the consumer is more and more connected, right? So when you look at all of these things, right, and the space of innovation and transformation, and you look at the value chain of the payments industry, you see that there's increased sophistication and specialization, right? And so we're humble enough to know that, or to realize that we cannot do this together, right? There's a tremendous opportunity to transform and convert cash payments into digital payments. And so we've changed over the past several years the way we work. We've opened up our platform, our technology platform, into an open platform with Visa Developer Platform. And we've also changed the way we work with other players in the industry. We've opened up about 10 innovation centers globally in many cities. We have 2 in Latin America, in Miami and Brazil. And in these venues, we create a space where we can meet with fintech, startups, traditional clients of ours like financial institutions, merchants, governments, to discuss trends, but also to what we call co-create, right? So this co-creation process is a process where we sit down with all these other players, look into real industry problems, and try to define what are the areas of opportunities that we can solve together. And from there, by applying design thinking and human-centered design methodologies, we build prototypes that we can bring quickly to market. And so there are a number of collaboration models that we're working with and that we're actually experimenting with, right? Because all of this is fairly new. And the collaboration models span from simple referral programs to acceleration programs, strategic partnerships, and even minority investments, right? And so the first thing that we needed to do was to insert ourselves into the fintech community. And so we've been partnering with other players to sponsor acceleration programs like Startup Bootcamp in Mexico or GSB Labs in Brazil. We also have our own scouting program, which is called Visa Everywhere Initiative. We rolled it out last year for the first time in Latin America. We've been doing this since 2015 globally. And we're going to soon announce the second edition of Visa Everywhere for 2018. And what it is an innovation program where we challenge and invite startups to present their solutions to uncover the next new thing in payments, right? And throughout the program, we provide mentoring, we give them access to Visa product experts, as well as to Visa clients. So that's one front, one thing that we're doing. We're also doing strategic alliances and partnerships. So over the past few years, months actually, we announced two important partnerships, one with Yellow Pepper, which is a pioneer in mobile payments in Latin America, and another one with Novo Payments. What we see in them, in the case of Yellow Pepper, is that they can provide a middleware platform that can help us integrate Visa solutions and help our clients innovate and bring things to market much faster. In the case of Novo Payment, they're an enabler of financial services and digital payments, and with them, we've done an agreement to expand use cases into B2B payments, right? And so in terms of minority investments, we're open to it. We've done a few globally, like Chain, Marqeta, Klarna, Stripe, Square, to name a few. So I would say we're experimenting, learning, and trying a lot of things.
Amazing, amazing, fantastic. Mache, I know you have a different background on a different industry. How did this background help you on innovating in financial services?
Well, first of all, let me point out that it's weird that two Argentinians and a Brazilian are speaking English to a Spanish-speaking audience. I come from the e-commerce industry. I spent 17 years there. What I was asked the day I entered the Scotiabank was to bring this digital culture that we had in Mercado Libre to the bank, to the whole bank. And we are in this process of transforming this bank digitally, and that's not only in product, it's also in culture things. Maybe we are doing many things in products, renewing our digital channels and making our application processes being online and being 100% paperless, but trying to be more adjusted to the audience and speaking more about our fintech strategy. We have two teams. We have a local team and a regional team that both are present here now. And the local team, what does is handle this relationship with fintechs. It also partners with accelerators. We are sponsoring this kind of events. We want to be near of the fintechs where the fintechs are now. The strategy is to start to pilot things, proof of concepts with this fintechs, trying to see which fintechs can add a value to the bank ecosystem. And once we know that it's working and that we can have something in hands, that's where the global team enters the game, helping us to see how to leverage that fintechs, because we have a five-country strategy that is Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. But also the bank has presence in some other countries of South America, and also it's the most important bank in Central America and the Caribbean. So we try to leverage those fintechs to see how can we expand them to some other countries where the bank is operating. And then we can, once we know that that's going to work, we have a wide range of opportunities to do with those fintechs. We can just continue working as partners or as providers and help us with some issues that we have at the bank, till maybe making an investment that we want to make an investment this year in Colombia with a Colombian fintech. It might be of a pair of millions of dollars. So within those two options, we have a wide range of opportunities to see how can we work together with these fintechs. Obviously, we are not doing as many things as Vanesa told from Visa yet, but we are working also to be near of this ecosystem. We are planning to make some hackathons here in Colombia to, I don't know, saying we have these problems, how can we solve them, and start to be participating more in this ecosystem and working together with the fintech startups.
Great, very good. So both of you have some initiatives that are already is already working, and what could you mention like a case of success, some initiative that really worked for you, that you can mention that like something that I can really replicate in other geographies or in other countries?
So I think, as I said, a lot of the things we're doing are new, right? So we're in this process of learning, understanding what works, what doesn't work. I think that what has worked very nicely and that we're looking into doing more and more is inserting ourselves into the fintech and startup community. When you talk to these entrepreneurs, it's amazing the level of energy and creativity and talent that is out there, right? It's contagious and it's very good to bring that to the Visa team. So I'm sure we're going to keep doing that and replicating, and that's one of the reasons we're bringing the second edition of Visa Everywhere this year. So that's working very, very well. The other thing that is also working very well is building these strategic alliances, right? These partnerships, because overall the financial services industry is still going through a transformation, and we found a place with some of these fintechs that in the middleware platforms work very nicely for us to help us speed time to market, right? And so I would probably highlight those two as
in our case, what I always say is that we are still not innovating too much. We are building what the bank should have built maybe 5 years ago, but we are setting the base to start innovating in the future. Maybe in some of the countries we already made some investments in Confio, for example, in Mexico, or Comparaguru. There are some fintechs that we want to bring from Mexico or other countries to the rest of the 5 countries of the strategy. When we see things that we made locally, maybe we are just launching but maybe something internal for us, but it's one of the things that we want to make to transform the bank. That is, we just launched a way of opening savings accounts in 5 minutes and totally paperless from your cell phone or computer. And we are migrating that platform to the branches, for example. So we won't use anymore any paper at the branches to open new savings accounts. And that the delay of opening a savings account at the branch was 45 minutes. We are reducing it to 8 minutes probably. That's a saving in time for the executives that can use that time to sell more, to serve our customers better, to make them wait less at the branches to open an account or whatever that they go to do. So that's the way we want to innovate, to make things digitally that we can take to the rest of the bank and make improvements there.
Great. And talking a little bit about the learnings on these experiences and maybe mistakes that were made, what would be your recommendations to other banks and other financial institutions that are embracing this open innovation world?
Well, I would say if you look at a few years back, right, many organizations would still look at fintechs as competitors, right? I think that's changing in the region, and I see more and more, not only the networks like Visa, but also financial institutions opening up to fintechs and collaborating, right? So I think that movement is already in place, and if I could say something to someone that hasn't made that move, is that it's highly recommendable, right? Yeah, I think that's.
Well, I believe that one important decision that the banks have to do is to open their platforms to offering bank as a service for fintechs. In the US and some other countries, they are already open. Here in Colombia, I believe that maybe Bancolombia did something, BBVA did something, but we need to be more open to offer this kind of services to fintechs, because there are going to appear more different fintechs that can use our data to solve people's issues, maybe offering products more targeted to the customers or helping them in their financial stuff. So we need to work more together and be more open. We have this philosophy of being open to work with the fintech startups. I know that they don't always trust us, because there are some examples of some banks that didn't make good things with working with fintechs, and then they copied the model and they just discharged the other ones. So I want to work with them so that the fintechs can learn with us, that we can learn from them, that we can invest in the best fintechs in the region, and be open to working together and give them the solutions and the tools that they need to make their businesses too.
This is a very important point that you mentioned. How do you build this trust? Because it's not a question of saying to the fintechs, trust me.
No, but not just I believe that when we have no history, we have to say, trust us. We are not that kind of banks. We want to work really together. We have an experience of already making huge investments in I don't know how many, Taide can help me maybe, how many investments did we do already?
6 so far, almost 9 this month, and around 25 from
Okay, so we already made a lot of investments in the region. We want to continue making these investments in Colombia, in Chile, in Peru. We have investments in Brazil, for example, where we have no operations, but for example, we have an investment in Nubank. So we have the experience of working together regionally, maybe not locally, but the philosophy is the same one. And obviously, we have to show that we can be trusted. Right now, we have no experience to show something else, but we are open saying it, and I believe in the word. So if we say that we are going to work together and to trust us, you can.
And you also mentioned the open platforms and open banking. Are you planning to open your APIs?
Yes, not yet. We are rebuilding our platform. So we are building our first, or we already made the first one, but we are building our APIs. We first need to know that they work fine in a private way, using them to make our platforms work. And once we are sure that we are going to be able to support that increase of traffic and the use, we are going to be opening, because we have, as I told you, this philosophy of being open to and building this bank as a service strategy. And I hope that all banks can join us in this mission.
What about you, Vanesa?
Yeah, so we, a few years back, we've done a paradigm shift by opening up VisaNet into an open platform with Visa Developer Platform, right? And so the first thing was to launch all these APIs. We have about, or more than 90 APIs published already. We're now working in improving the onboarding processes and documentation. So there's still a lot of work to do, right? And from a technical point of view also, evolving the platform so that we can enable testing of multiple APIs simultaneously as opposed to doing one at a time, right? But I think that was a major shift in Visa strategy, because once you open up the platform, right, you're basically inviting any player in the market to build innovations on top of your innovations, right? So that has been an important move.
One important point when we are talking about opening APIs is the question of the owner of the data. And this is a huge discussion in Europe and in United States. And also we are having these discussions now in Latin America with several central banks here. And I'd like to ask you if you have any point of view on that, because when some time ago, the banks used to protect all the data, especially the customer data, because they are sensible and of course this is very important, and they used to see that as an asset of the banks. But this is changing, and I would like to ask you, do you have any point of view on that, if the owner of the data is the bank or if it is the user?
That's always an issue. The thing is that here in Colombia, that's totally regulated, so you have to be very careful with that information. I don't have an opinion already formed on how to handle that. I believe that we have to work together, move forward, see how can fintechs add a value to the banks' ecosystems, and how the banks can add value to the fintech ecosystem, and then we'll see what happens with the data. Obviously, when you sell a product to a customer, you need to have that customer in your database. But I believe that now it's a second point to discuss and not the main.
So moving now to what I think is the main challenge for the big companies, which is about culture. How do you engage the executives of the business areas on dealing with a startup, on trying to innovate, taking some risk? Generally, they don't have any incentive for doing that. So how do you do that in practice?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, or I think I mentioned it, a few years back, we were not in the conversation table with fintechs, right? And so that was a big shift. And as we engage more and more with startups and fintechs through these mentoring programs, and by exposing them to our executives and by exposing them to other areas within Visa, we're starting to drive sort of that cultural change, right? I was saying fintech startups, they bring, they are more agile, they're more human-centered, right? They're really focused on solving problems, and they're very creative. And by exposing all that talent internally to Visa, I think that's helping shift the culture, right? And of course, we're also working in some programs. So having the innovation centers help, right? So these are venues that are not only to engage with external clients, but also with internal clients. So more and more internal areas, not only product areas that are aimed to build new solutions, are coming to the center, but also from the risk department, from the HR department, marketing, right? More and more they're engaging with the innovation team, and we're facilitating, helping them think through, look at things differently. We recently rolled out a new training program. It's called Payments Everywhere, with the intention of level setting, right? So there's been such an acceleration in new technologies, right? That we want to make sure that everyone at Visa is knowledgeable, understands what are the trends that are occurring out there, right? And through that program, we're building cohorts that are working on ideas that they need to present. Those ideas that are more attractive, we're going to put them through sort of a acceleration program internally and present them for potential funding, right? So it's I would say we're probably still early stages in terms of saying the entire organization has culturally transformed. We're not there yet. So a lot of work to do on that front, but taking it step by step.
Well, in our case, luckily at Scotiabank, we are fully aligned on this strategy of transforming the bank. We want to transform from a traditional bank to a technology company that offers financial services, and working with fintechs is part of this mission, no? And obviously, co-working with fintech, it's one step of this strategy. We also have to transform the bank from inside. So, as we were speaking today, our strategy is to bring all of the areas of the bank to the digital factory. We have a digital factory of 150 people here in Colombia. We are more than 1,000 if you join all of the 5 factories. But the important thing there is bringing these people from other vice presidencies to work with us, so as to have like digital champions from credit risk, from operative risk, from fraud risk, from audit, from the business. So we have specialists in savings accounts, in credit cards, in loans, in insurance. We have lawyers, we have people from AML and KYC. So they are like these digital champions that help us do things that we never could be doing without them. So we are changing the way that a lawyer, maybe before he was saying us, you cannot do this. Now it's, you can do this way. And that's how we are working now. And once they work inside of the digital factory, but once they go back to their areas, or maybe some they are 24/7 with us, some are 2 hours a day, but when they go back to their areas, they are also our digital ambassadors that they try to evangelize the rest of the bank on this digital transformation. And I believe that this is important for us to start making things that maybe before were impossible to be done.
It's great. Listening you, it seems to be something very simple, but it is not. So congratulations.
It's not. It's really not.
Well, unfortunately, we are almost running out of time, and I would finally ask each of you what would your message, your final message to the audience?
Yeah, so I would say we're constantly scouting, trying to identify new companies, new startups, new fintechs. So don't hesitate to approach me. Back in the room over there, there's also Daniel Andrade from Visa who leads the engagement with fintechs. So open invitation to work with Visa, and also open invitation to Scotia to work with Visa and bring the new innovation centers together.
Great.
In the case of us, obviously, I already said something related to that, but we are open to work with all fintech startups. So we want to learn from you. We want to, also you can learn from us, working together. So you can come to us. We have an email that it's innovation@colpatria.com. So if you feel that you have something, you are working in something that can add value to a banking ecosystem, or solving an issue, some of the problems that the bank system have, contact us, write to us. We can work together. We also are open to work with different companies as Visa or any other company from the banking environment, so as to start transforming the banking industry from inside.
Great. We have 2 new opportunities for startups now. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you, Mache. And thank you for your time. Thank you.